Hey everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Who Are They? SABER REELS. Once again, I am Matt. This is the new setup, as we've talked about all this week when we've done our shows. We're going to stick with this from now on and put everything else on SoundCloud after the fact. But joining me today on SABER REELs, I have Tom Zavertnik.
Hello.
If you've been following up on the site, Tom's one of our viewers there. Occasionally he'll put up a story. I know we've talked about doing an A24 story. So hopefully,
yes.
hopefully
we'll have the time.
We
have a lot more time to do that A24 story now.
But of course, what is Who Are They without Nick?
They convinced me to do a Star Wars thing.
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't the one that convinced him.
Time.
And the one that convinced him joins us now. Hi, Allie.
Hello.
Hi,
I convinced him to do it.
Yeah, and not last, we'll call her second last, but last for now, we have the lovely Miss Jen Serino.
Hello.
So, yes, this is 5/6 of our panel today. The last member of the panel will be joining us shortly. He's on his way home from work. But let's just start it all off. This is Who Are They? SABER REELs. And to start off, we definitely need to talk about the news that has been The Mandalorian. But I'm just so shocked by this casting news we got yesterday. I know Tom's a big fan of this guy. We had Michael Biehn cast in The Mandalorian as a bounty hunter. Tom, how do you feel about that?
I'm just super excited to see him in something huge again. He's obviously from Terminator fame and from Aliens fame, but to see him in something that's like prominent again made me happy. Even as a bounty hunter, I think he always plays a good kind of badass role, and I'm happy to see him kind of play that role again.
All right, Nick, how do you feel about the infamous Michael Biehn, John Connor, and I forget what he was in Starship Troopers or whatever?
Oh, in Aliens, Sergeant Hicks.
Sergeant Hicks. How do you feel, Nick?
No, it's pretty cool. I mean, the whole thing about Star Wars is that it's such an open universe, and that, I mean, we could pretty much bring anybody into it, and everybody will kind of enjoy their role. You've had a lot of celebrity cameos so far in The Mandalorian, but I think that this is probably going to be a little bit more than that. But no, again, just happy to see him back in the spotlight.
Allie, how are you feeling about it?
Pretty good. I know he's been in a lot of films from back in the day. I mainly know him from Terminator and Alien, but I'm excited to see him because you never know, because he can be like a really cool badass bounty hunter that pairs up with the Mandalorian, or he can have some sort of plot twist where he goes against him or something weird happens. I don't know. I'm excited to see what they do with his character.
And last but not least, the baby of the group, the one who has not seen Terminator or
I've seen it partially.
Oh, yeah.
But I think he'll do like pretty good with like his history and stuff of like his past movies, because like Allie said, he'll probably be pretty badass. That's all I got.
Well, I know this news is probably something Allie can more so talk about, but MovieWeb did an interview with Neil Scanlon this week, and they were talking about how some of the unused character concepts will end up being, or from Rogue One, will end up being used in the Cassian Andor show. I know, Allie, this past year at Celebration, you wanted to try to check out the Neil Scanlon panel. I can't remember if you got a chance to or not, but
No, I didn't.
Are you excited to at least see and hear that we're gonna get some of this unused concept, especially being a makeup artist yourself?
Oh yeah, definitely. No, definitely, because I love creatures. I want to see what else is new. Ever since, because I always forget the guy's name. Who was it? The one that died on the finale. Yes, yes. So he was the one that was a pretty reoccurring character that was a practical effects creature that was used pretty often. So I'm excited to see if they're gonna go that route again. Because like I was gonna bring this up a little later, but like because Jon Favreau likes to use some of the old techniques of using practical effects, like puppetry and stuff like that. Like not all of it has to be VFX. So I'm just excited to see if all of that old Rogue One unused concepts are going to be used in a practical sense. And even if they aren't, I'm still excited to see it in The Mandalorian.
Now, Jenny, I know you have a tendency to love all the different creatures and droids and whatnot of the Star Wars universe. How does this make you feel?
I'm excited. Like, I don't have much to say. I mean anything like creature wise, droid wise, I'm mostly down for, except unless they're on the Resistance, because that's like a no-go for me. Not the Resistance, shit. The dark side, because my brain can't work.
The Empire?
That.
First Order?
That too.
Fair enough.
A mouse droid.
Right.
Tom, how are you feeling about the whole thing? You excited? What do you think we can expect out of this?
For the Neil one?
Yeah.
I think it'd be kind of cool. The Cassian Andor series as a whole, I'm still kind of iffy about, but having said characters, as long as the characters are like unique and they kind of bring something new to the table, I mean, I'm all for new and unique characters. I just weird how it's going to be led though by Cassian Andor, but hey, it's more Star Wars. So
Well, why is it weird that it's going to be led by Cassian Andor? You said you still don't know about this series. Come on.
I just think because we kind of see where he goes in Rogue One. We know where he begins off in that movie, and if it's a series that leads up to even that first moment when he shoots a dude in the back, he's going to be that guy then, right? I mean, obviously he's doing whatever he can to complete the mission, but I don't know if he's going to be like, if this is kind of a rebellious show, it's going to be kind of a very darkish hero, I think, to follow. Not that that's bad. It's not bad. Just out of all the other characters, I think you can make a show out of. It's the weirdest one to me was the Cassian Andor one.
Fair enough. Nick, creatures, I know you love the Empire and the dark side and everything, and they don't really have many of those outside of Thrawn. So how are you feeling about it?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of with Tom where as much as a Cassian Andor show, I guess, is interesting because I guess where they leave you off, there's a million different ways you can go with these characters in this movie, with all the different characters in Rogue One. That wouldn't have been the one that I would have chosen, but obviously there's star power with Diego Luna. I am excited just in general when it comes to creatures. It all kind of started back up for me when it came to The Force Awakens. Even that abomination that is on the Millennium Falcon in The Rise of Skywalker is kind of just that guy. Even that, is such an original character, and I think that it's kind of in a way like Pokemon, where you have your original characters that are really interesting, and maybe they're starting to come up with a little bit more obscure ideas in order to just kind of keep things going. But no, I mean, whenever it comes to creatures and stuff like that, I love the work that comes along with it, and I just love the characters in general.
All right, fair enough. Well, for me personally, especially since I'm the guy who everyone knows I live, breathe, and eat Star Wars, I every time one of the newer films comes out on home release, I always love diving into the special features because I want to see what creatures were made and why. I know your favorite creature, everyone's favorite creature just about in episode 9 was Babu Frick. The Frick
start.
Yeah.
Shout out to Taylor on that one. But
I like that slug thing, really. I mean, I was kidding. Oh, I'm sorry.
But Neil Scanlon has done amazing work in all these films. That's just what I have to say. First thing, Neil Scanlon and the work that he's done for the Star Wars saga, especially over the last 6 or so years, it's top notch. And switching back to practical effects and then blending some of them in with special effects has just been fantastic. I'm really excited to see more of that, even if it's stuff that we may have seen in like a Rogue One art book, or maybe just even new creatures that they come up with for this show. Overall, though, I really can't wait to see more, and that's what we're getting. So, and I, for one, and I can't believe I'm going to agree with Tom and Nick on this one. I agree. I didn't expect a Cassian show, but I also didn't expect a Han Solo movie, and I ended up loving that. I know Tom may not agree.
No. I enjoyed Han Solo. That's out of the spin. Well, I mean, there's only 2 spin-offs, but I mean that's one of my favorite ones of the newer ones. I really enjoy that one. Feels like an action. That one feels just like a fun journey, side journey.
Yeah, no, Solo.
That's right.
Solo is probably my out of all the 5 movies that have been released, it's fighting for that number 3 spot currently. So yeah, I kind of agree with you there. But we talked a little bit about the Michael Biehn news, and now we've talked about the Neil Scanlon news. We had some really big news this week, and that was Rosario Dawson has been cast by Ahsoka, originally broken by Slash Film, which had a lot of people skeptical because, let's be honest, Slash Film doesn't have the best reputation. I know we talked a little bit about this on Sunday, but we're on a Star Wars show, so we got to talk about this. Literally, that between Rosario Dawson and Brie Larson, those were the 2 actresses that I personally wanted to see as Ahsoka Tano if we did a live-action version. Now, I know there are some people who may not agree with that and wanted Ashley Eckstein, who had come out with this beautiful statement earlier this week saying, no, she's not a part of The Mandalorian, and she wishes that she would be Ahsoka in any medium, but she's just glad to see the character live on. But I know one person, at least, who is on the Ashley for Ahsoka train, and let's have her talk about how she's feeling. How you doing, Allie?
Well, good. At first, when the news first came out and I texted you, I was like, I don't know if I feel about this. Like, when I do have to admit that when you told me that Ashley probably doesn't fit the character as well in a real life standpoint, I was going over that more as like a makeup artist standpoint, just because Rosario Dawson does have the facial structure for the design of the character concept, whichever way they decide to do it. Because I know that they like to but they like to tweak the look of a character for an on-screen look versus animation or comics or whatever. Like, obviously, I'm pointing in the wrong direction, but what's it called? C-3PO did not look the same as he did when he was first sketched up. Just there's thousands and hundreds, of different variations that you can go off of. But I was looking more into that, and I do think that she would be a pretty good choice. Between her and Brie Larson, I don't think Brie Larson would fit the character very well, especially because she's such a big budget actor right now because of Captain Marvel. But I am leaning more towards Rosario Dawson, but Ashley all the way with like true Ahsoka. But you have made me like lean towards like Rosario a little bit. So congratulations.
well, thank you. I don't know why I'm full screen. But yeah, Jenny, I know you're in the middle of watching Clone Wars. You loved Rebels. How do you feel about the Rosario Dawson cast?
I'm pretty excited. I did not know there was a debate over the actress, so newsflash for me. But like I mean, I think she'll do great, and I find it fascinating that like they've found a way to make Ahsoka appear up at all in these Star Wars shows. From like we watch her training in Clone Wars, and then we see her in Rebels, and then now this, and I'm excited what we have in store for the Mandalorian.
Especially after I know, like I said, I know you've watched Rebels, especially with how we know Rebels ended with setting up her and Sabine going off to find Ezra. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched Rebels. Are you interested in seeing that Ahsoka wizard-looking character, that if she's more so like that in the show?
I am, and like I think that's where they were gonna. That's probably the most logical look to go with her, and then with like Sabine around it, like I think with as her character being who she is, the show's pretty dark, so they'll bring a lot of like color and light to the show, which I'm pretty excited about.
Okay. Well, I know Nick has not watched. Nick's seen an episode here and there, both Clone Wars and Rebels. He's not. He's more the I'm going to stick to the movies guy because it's easier for me to commit to rather than a television show. But Nick, being the guy who doesn't necessarily digest all of the media, how do you feel about this?
I mean, let's face it. Here's the thing: is that there's a difference between live action and animated, in my opinion. So to me, there was never really a debate. Somebody else was probably going to end up playing her. And my point is, you're never going to see Hayden Christensen or Ewan McGregor play their characters in Clone Wars. But if they were going to appear in a Mandalorian type show, they're going to end up playing themselves. Now, obviously, Hayden Christensen would probably not play Vader in that situation. But who's playing Obi-Wan in the Obi-Wan show? It's not the guy who voices him in Clone Wars. So I completely understand, and we've seen a voice kind of follow this character along, which is great. But again, to bring bigger viewers and people who probably aren't as familiar with the character, they're probably going to put somebody more notable around it. It's just, to me, how things are going to end up working, especially with something as big as Star Wars. So, in my opinion, I love the casting. I love Rosario Dawson's work. So just bring it on. I'm excited to see the look.
Yeah. Well, now we also have Tom, who's probably, outside of Allie and myself, the biggest Star Wars content digester here, whatever you want to call him. Tom, how are you feeling? Because I haven't really had a chance to talk to you at all. I've talked to basically everyone else on the panel about this before, but you're the fresh voice in all this. So
I think it's pretty cool that they're bringing Ahsoka to the big screen. I remember back when the first Clone Wars movie came out. It was 2010 or something like that. And I did not like it really at all. And I found her character kind of annoying. Not gonna lie. But once that show started picking up ground, I think her character actually started to become more well written, and I think she's the highlight, to me at least, of the later stuff of that show. I haven't watched any of the newest season. I have some catching up to do.
Have you watched Rebels?
Yeah. Well, I haven't watched too much of Rebels. I mainly watch kind of highlights or kind of catching up on the lore of it, because Rebels introduces a lot of big things that even the movies don't even touch on. And especially even how that ends and how that goes into what I thought was going to be some bigger thing into 9, but didn't. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy that she's going to be put into Mandalorian, because if that means it's maybe one step closer to getting an actual into a movie or something, that would be, I think, really cool to see this character start from how small it was to as large of a character she is now with a huge fan base and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I know Allie mentioned it earlier, but yeah, I'm fully on the hype train. For Rosario as Ahsoka, it makes sense. If you look at Rebels, Ahsoka is taller, has more of an athletic build, and as much as I do love Ashley Eckstein, she doesn't really have the right build for her. It's like she's the voice. I know she's cosplayed Ahsoka before and looked fantastic, did the makeup and everything, but I don't know if she'd have the athleticism that's needed. And we've seen Rosario in some more athletic roles and things like that. And her just to be able to get an actress with that kind of name can live up to the character as well as sound pretty similar to her. So it shouldn't be that big of a jump for the audience, at least. I'm really excited. But Tom brought up a very valid point about it'd be interesting to see this lead into a movie. And then I want to say it was Deadline's article. They talked about the fact that they're kind of using her appearance in The Mandalorian as a testing ground for her own show. So I'm going to go reverse order this time. Tom, how would you feel about, I know you just talked about it a little bit, but her getting her own show?
I think that would be kind of neat if if it would continue what happens at the end of Rebels, if that is what became its own show, given that from that point till Force Awakens, at least for me, because I haven't looked up too much, but even in just normal canon of stuff that's been released, I believe that's kind of that's untapped ground, untapped potential to do anything you want with Ahsoka in this time period. That's obviously very huge. Like, we know what she's done in Clone Wars, and if I can remember correctly, isn't there kind of a time jump at the end of Rebels?
Yeah, about 2 years.
Yeah,
because you jump from, or no, more than 2 years, like 3, because you jump from right before Episode 4 starts to right around the time that the war ends and Episode 6 ends, and that's how the series ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would be totally down for her own show. I think there's enough material with her character to grant it her own show.
Yeah. So Nick, your thoughts about the possibility of Rosario Dawson leading an Ahsoka show after The Mandalorian?
I mean, you bring up a point that I kind of want to touch on when it comes to Disney and Star Wars. I mean, it's successful, and obviously there are movies coming and stuff like that, but I feel like they're going to almost find more success with these TV shows. Notice how in the article they're testing the grounds for an Ahsoka TV show. Now, clearly she could handle a movie, and to me personally, it's probably going to cost them a lot more money for all the effects for her makeup and stuff like that to elongate over a TV show. Now, they obviously film multiple episodes at a time, but I just kind of find it to be interesting the route that Star Wars is going. Same thing with these like Marvel TV shows on Disney Plus. I feel like we're going to get a lot more Disney Plus Star Wars content before we end up getting a lot of movies. And I know that there is that discussion for later on when it comes to the new movies and stuff like that. But I do find it to be interesting, and I'm sure that she could handle her own show. It'll just be really interesting to see where that goes.
Well, Jenny, I know that Ahsoka was one of your favorite characters in Rebels, and if they do end up doing this Ahsoka show, what would you want to see personally? Would you want to see that time in between where we see her before the finale, where we find out she's still alive and that she was pulled into the world between worlds? Or would you want to see the journey from that Ahsoka to the Ahsoka we see in the finale, or would you want to see the journey of Ahsoka and Sabine after the finale?
I for sure want to see like the Ahsoka from like when they left Rebels with Sabine and stuff, but we followed Ahsoka basically through her whole entire life, that you can basically start off anywhere where there's like a break point and time jump, in my opinion, and you would still be fine with it because we followed her through her whole life. And going off what Nick said, and I think the TV show would be best for it because, God damn it, because in my opinion, with the Star Wars movies, they leave a lot of plot holes out and Star Wars fans are okay with, but still leaves us with questions, and that's when they create more books and more content about it. But with the TV show, I think we can go deeper into detail about it.
See, you just made a point that I know Nick has had his issues with Star Wars because of that, and I know we'll probably touch on it a little bit more when we get into the state of Star Wars up next. But the content, and that's a big portion of it. And I kind of agree with you and Nick that a television show is probably the better course of action, especially for the series going forward, because you're able to dig more into this content, and that's what makes Star Wars more fun. I know some people don't like reading. Some people, especially like when Lucasfilm was bought by Disney back in 2012, 2013, people were jumping on the fact that, oh yes, we're gonna get these books as movies and this, that, and the other. And then that's part of the reason some people have found the sequel trilogy so disappointing, because they rather have the books, but ultimately ended up being a business decision, which is what this is. Allie, when it comes to a business decision, what do you think is best in regards to where a Ahsoka show should go?
On a business decision, let's see. Well, obviously they would do it if it was a business decision, because that's more money, and they always tend to do that. But I think that it could be done if it's done right, and if they pick the right person to do it, like how they picked Jon Favreau to lead The Mandalorian. Basically, since Dave Filoni kind of, this is his baby, Ahsoka is kind of like his, I would feel like it would be appropriate for him to lead an Ahsoka-based live-action show. And it would be really cool for them to also do something like The Mandalorian, where they bring in different directors. Like for season 2, they just released today that they're bringing in Robert Rodriguez to direct a couple of episodes, which I'm super excited for. Last season they Bryce Dallas Howard directed. So they're like a bunch of different people directed. So I feel like if they get different minds to do a bunch of different stuff and not just stick to one set person, then it could be done right. It has to be, it has to have a good structure first, with a good, like a good person to do it, like a good producer, good directors, obviously a good makeup team. So no kidding. But no, but yeah, so I feel like, but at a business standpoint, that's obviously where they look, because they need to do it if it's at a business standpoint, because it makes more money, and that's what Disney is all about, is making more money. So
Truth. Personally, for me, I agree. Business standpoint, TV shows is the best decision. I want to see that time in between where we find out Ezra pulled her into the world between worlds, and that she lived, to how we get to this Gandalf the White looking Ahsoka at the end of the Rebels finale. As much as I do want to see the time of her and Sabine, I think we need to figure out how she got from point A to point B in that sense, because she is such an important character, and there's still gaps in our knowledge of her. I know that the Ahsoka novel filled some of those gaps for between episode 3 to Rebels, but we still need to fill some more gaps, and I think an Ahsoka show is the best way to do that, and they already have the perfect person to play her in Rosario Dawson. So, but I know we're talking about a lot of the future of Star Wars right now, but we also have to talk about where we are at with Star Wars currently. And I know there are people on the panel who loved who loved Rise of Skywalker, and there are people on the panel who didn't love Rise of Skywalker. So I want each of you to just basically tell me where you think that Star Wars stands currently, and I'm going to start off with Tom.
I think it's in an interesting place. I'm in the camp of actually 100% despising Episode 9, it being my least favorite Star Wars of them all. But
even worse than Attack of the Clones.
I would rather watch Attack of the Clones. Yes. Yeah, it's a pretty heavy opinion. But But I think it's an interesting place because The Mandalorian was a huge success, and obviously Rise of Skywalker made over $1 billion. I think no matter what, Star Wars is always going to make money. But I think it's kind of the shape of Star Wars to me. I guess it kind of lies within where the storytelling aspects are going to go. Being somebody that is absolutely in love with Episode 8, I was all for with really new directions. And I think 9 was a step back in that regard. But The Mandalorian, I mean, it is kind of like that old Western / samurai, Jedi Geki / samurai type of vibe to it, and I think it works really well with it. I was kind of hoping it wasn't going to be like, oh, you know, if you've seen 7 Samurai, you've seen like 3 of the episodes of Mandalorian practically already. It's still cool to see it in kind of a Star Wars skin, but I'm at least hoping that with this High Republic stuff coming, that there's at least unique stories or something that isn't just a rebel go or an Imperial or First Order soldier goes good. Just something a little bit more unique. I know there's not too many prints of like what you can do with the story, but I mean, with this High Republic, they say, you know, you can take this anywhere you want, and I hope it goes to stuff that we really haven't seen before in terms of show and movies. But I think Star Wars is an interesting place. I'm happy that the movie stuff is kind of taking a hiatus for the time being.
I know you don't want to personally buy Episode 9.
Well, my dad keep asking me, he's like, "Wait, when's it coming out?" And I mean, I'll get it. It's the only Star Wars movie I think I've only seen it once. I saw it that once with you guys.
That was fun.
that was a fun screening. But yeah, I don't know. I finished and I mean, yeah, you remember my reaction. I just kind of was like,
You're done with that movie about halfway through it.
I do want to check out that documentary that comes with it. You told me about
that's
it.
The point I was about to make. Like I said, I know you weren't the biggest fan of the movie, but I think as a Star Wars fan, once you check out the documentary, you'll end up enjoying it even more. And that's just how it is, because you can tell, especially watching the documentary, there is definitely some stuff we didn't get to see. But I'll dive more into that when I get my chance to talk about it. Allie, I know you loved Rise of Skywalker. How do you feel? Where do you feel Star Wars is right now?
I feel like they're in a good place. I mean, I loved it, but I didn't love how months later the Star Wars Twitter was releasing like, oh, Palpatine was really a clone in Rise of Skywalker, and like stuff like that. Just stupid facts that we didn't even need, like just random stupid stuff that was like, okay, like thanks, what do we do with this information? And just random plot holes that we didn't need. But no, I really loved the movie, and I think it's at a good place right now, especially with the release of them doing the High Republic, like Tom said. I think that's going to be a really cool project. Obviously, Galaxy's Edge, they're doing really great right now. That's bringing in a lot of money because, you know, that's what it's all about. But I think it's going good. You know, Celebration is on the horizon. Mandalorian season 2 in October is going to be great. I think it's in a good place just because there's no big blockbuster movies anytime like coming out anytime soon doesn't mean that it's not going good. So, you know, they have a bunch of other stuff happening right now. So I think that it's going good, and it's gonna continue to go good. So yeah.
Right. Well, Jenny, how do you feel about Star Wars and the state of it right now?
In general, or just Episode 9? General. I think they're doing pretty good. I mean, they do have ideas popping out everywhere to fill in the plot holes. I'm on the fence on episode 9 because, oh my god, because I love it, but like I said before, the creatures and the droids are my favorite. 3PO was a real tearjerker for me.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So that's where my fence is there, because we could have lost so many years of memories over one thing. But yeah.
All right. Well, joining us now is our other guest. We have Drew Page joining us. And Drew, how you doing, bud?
Hey, what's up?
All right. Well, right now we've just been talking about the state of Star Wars, and I know that you weren't the biggest fan of Episode 9. You felt the trilogy got worse with each movie.
Yeah, kind of.
But where do you feel the state of Star Wars is right now?
I don't know, because you do have things like Rise of Skywalker and Last Jedi, which I'm not like giving any opinions on them, but they are movies that seem to be controversial, I guess. But then you also have things like Fallen Order and Mandalorian, which seem to just have like universal praise. So I feel like it's different. I don't know. I feel like it's different fans. But I'm glad that they're just stepping away from the Skywalker line, because it feels like everything that Disney has done as far as things that are staying away from the Skywalkers has been amazing. So I don't know, maybe.
I know another person who hasn't been the happiest with Disney and how they've been treating Star Wars. Nick, where do you feel we are with Star Wars right now?
Oh God.
No, I'm just kidding. That was a joke. I love The Force Awakens because we made a movie about it. But I didn't really like The Rise of Skywalker. I thought The Last Jedi was fine alone, not as a Star Wars film. Because when I think of Star Wars films, I think of all the tradition that goes into them. Kind of how every single movie is kind of based off the original trilogy, which I kind of feel like it went away from with the last two, which was fine. I just don't think that Star Wars fans were necessarily used to that. But then I felt like Episode 9 was kind of spoon-fed to me, and that isn't necessarily my favorite thing when it comes to film, is movies that are just kind of like, well, here, actually, Chewbacca's fine. Actually, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? But I mean, there are parts that I liked about the movie. I thought that the part from the trailer where Kylo Ren was like destroying the bad guy or the villager with his lightsaber was pretty cool. But again, I had seen that in the trailer. It just didn't do a lot for me personally. And when it comes to Star Wars in general, I think that like it's in a fine state because it's always going to be profitable. And when it's profitable, they're going to keep making things. Now, whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. You know, The Mandalorian, I've heard nothing but amazing and incredible things about. This Cassian Andor show, I don't know if that's going to be the route that it's going to end up going, but I definitely don't hate the route that everything is going overall. Like I said, you know, the Fallen Order game sounds like it's fantastic. The where they're going with the movies, I think, can be very good as long as the storytelling is there, like Tom said. But the last couple of movies just didn't necessarily do it for me. And again, maybe it's because when it came to The Force Awakens, it was similar to the other ones, and that just kind of felt where Star Wars needed to be for me. I just liked it for that reason, I guess.
All right, well, it's my turn to be the controversial one in this. Well, not controversial. Out of the 5 Disney films, Rise of Skywalker is probably my second favorite. Especially, it was like my third or fourth, but after watching the documentary, which I know I was able to get Drew to watch because I'm like, yo, dude, there's some Luke stuff here, and we'll talk about your whole Luke thing in a little bit. But that documentary showed me as much, because I'll be the first to admit, yeah, there's plot holes in it, but out of any Star Wars movie outside of Episode 1, that's probably the most popcorn flick out of any of them. That's the one you're just like, or Episode 6 even, where you're just like, I'm just sitting here enjoying my popcorn, watching.
What?
Yeah,
Return of the Jedi?
Return of the Jedi is my favorite one, but it has some popcorn flick moments.
No. That's another argument then.
Should I
I'm
need to
willing
watch
to
a
fight.
documentary in order to like a movie, though?
I'm not saying you have to watch the documentary to like it. I'm saying watching the documentary enhances your experience of it. It's because there's so much detail, especially when you hear Chris Terrio talk about what his thought process was when writing the script, or even J.J. Abrams talking about that, or even just some of the props and why they were made that a certain way, like the Wayfinder knife, whatever you want to call it, the Sith blade. It's stuff like that where you're able to. And Nick, you're a filmmaker, you understand this. Sometimes, even when you're a filmmaker, what you're thinking might not completely translate onto the screen. And getting that little bit of what a filmmaker was thinking, whether they were the writer or director, it helps you understand a certain decision that you may not have liked or agreed with a little bit more.
It sounds like you really like it for the technical aspect. Is that right?
Rise of Skywalker, no. The technical aspect is probably where I like it least. But it was the fanboy aspect of it. It was I loved seeing how well this goes hand in hand with story and technical. I loved seeing how hand in hand it was tying in Leia's story with the old footage that we haven't used. I get that JJ was trying to craft an entire script around certain instances, and I should say him and Chris Terrio, and just that mixed with her death scene, and I hated I really hated that stupid ass kiss at the end of the movie.
Okay, thank you.
That was the most pointless. Nick. I remember Nick and I were sitting in the theater next to each other. We're like, no, for the love of God, no.
Yeah.
And then boom. It was pointless. It was stupid. That nearly pulled me out of the entire movie because it felt so place.
Totally agree.
But it was just to appease Reylo fans, even though it's technically not Reylo. It is Ben and Rey. That is not Reylo. Sorry, it's just the truth. Then you have the fact that
I get what you're saying about Leia. I'm not going to the kiss thing. I get what you're saying about Leia's story, because I liked her story like that. I hated how they had to make her kind of like a Jedi, and then they never showed that again. Why have her train as a Jedi but then put her back as a general?
I think that was to appease EU fans, honestly.
That was so weird. It was so weird.
But at the same time, when it made enough sense to me in the fact that, hey, she saw that her Jedi path ended with the death of her son, and she was trying to avoid her son dying. Ultimately, that's what happened. Because she had to sacrifice herself to release Ben's mind, basically, and get him to realize what he was doing and what it was costing him. So, hey, but there's I will say I don't, story-wise, the video game plot of we got to find this to get to here, and then we got to get to here to go to there. No, that I know Tom hated that, but just, I feel like this needed its end game. It needed the 3-hour runtime, and we didn't get that. But overall, I had fun with it, and that's ultimately what I want when I go to a movie. I want to have fun. So, yeah. But yeah, so that's Star Wars right now. Chris Lopez Chris.
You just spoiled the movie for Lou, just an FYI.
Oh God.
Oh, like Lou was gonna watch it anyways.
Well, I'm just making a point. I just got the text.
Chris Lopez asks us to rank the Disney Star Wars films best to worst. So we're gonna start off.
I have that in my phone.
We're gonna start off with Jenny right here. Jenny, Disney Star Wars movies best to worst.
Okay. Just the trilogy or the side pieces too?
All 5 Disney Star Wars movies.
Oh, there's just Disney.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So you got Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi, Solo, and The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay. Solo. Rise of Skywalker, Force Awakens. Wait, no, I didn't do that right. Shit. Solo, The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker, Force Awakens, and Rogue One.
Wow, Force Awakens is towards the bottom for you. Okay, I'm shocked there. Nick, how about you? What Disney one?
Is the Lost City Watto?
I didn't think that it was going to appear, so Watto is my hero. Anyways, let's see here.
Watto,
Well, The Force
Babu
Awakens
Frick,
is my favorite.
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks is my hero. Watto is my hero. Anyways, so let's see here. What am I working with here? I would say that it was probably The Rise of Skywalker.
We're going best to worst. We're going best to worst.
Oh, we're going best to worst.
Yes.
Force Awakens. I would probably say Rogue One, Solo, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker.
Allie, how about you?
Rogue One, Force Awakens, Solo, Rise of Skywalker, Last Jedi.
Drew?
Rogue One, Force Awakens, Solo, Last Jedi, and then miles beneath it, and then miles beneath that, Rise of Skywalker.
Damn. All right, Tom.
We got at the very top of heaven, The Last Jedi. And
Tom
then
hates Rogue One.
Solo, and then we drop a lot. We get Rogue One, and we go all the way to the bottom of wherever. I don't even know where you could go after a bottomless pit, Rise of Skywalker.
All right, well, for me, we have Last Jedi, or not Last Jedi. Hell no, not Last Jedi. Although I do like Last Jedi. We have Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker, Solo, Last Jedi. Rogue One is a steaming pile of shit. Besides the last 30 minutes.
No.
The last 30 minutes is what saves it.
Yeah, it is. That last 30 minutes is pure awesomeness, but everything before that was just, nah. Oh, I could live without it. I know, Drew, you're learning a little bit too much about me. Oh.
I already knew this from meeting you in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Nick, come on now. I see that comment. That's a Tommy that's got to go away.
Yeah,
I Solo love in the Last Jedi or in the Rogue One slander.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Tom doesn't hate Rogue One, but apparently he hates Rouge One.
Yeah, I hate Rouge One.
Whatever.
But,
Rouge is fine.
But
It's
yeah,
the same thing.
but we did talk a lot about where the Last Jedi, where Star Wars stands now, and we talked a little bit about the future. And I know in our answers about where Star Wars stands, we did mention the High Republic, which is literally as of right now the future of this franchise. That was announced. Project Luminous was the High Republic. So I'm going to start off with Allie here. Allie, what excites you about the High Republic era that we're about to start in August?
Well, basically, I'm just going to break down the High Republic just to anybody that doesn't know. Basically, it's a series of stories, books, comics, novelizations, stuff like that Star Wars is going to release in August of this year. It's going to be targeted towards people of all ages, like literally all ages. And it's an era in between the Old Republic and the Phantom Menace era. So no Skywalkers, but also no Old Republic or any characters that we know from there either. But we do, if you guys did see the trailer from the that Lucasfilm did release from the High Republic announcement, they had a storyboard that had sketches of Yoda. So we may see like a younger Yoda when he's like maybe emerging as a Jedi. This is also the peak of the Jedi Knights. So we're gonna see, like, I'm really excited for it. It's gonna be a bunch of new stories. I think it's definitely gonna take a turn. You know, it's not gonna be like a space opera like George Lucas states all the time how Star Wars is. It's gonna be its own thing. So I'm really excited. They said that basically it's its own universe, and but they want to show us how wide this universe really is, and that's why they're doing this. But they said that they're gonna do completely new characters. They're gonna bring canon characters. That's why they showed the old Yoda sketches. I'm excited if they're gonna do maybe like a young Qui-Gon or something. I don't know, maybe. And then also legends, maybe. So, but we'll see. So I'm really excited because then that stems off of doing, eventually films and then TV shows, and then I think this is the future of Star Wars is right here, the High Republic.
All right, Nick, are you excited for the High Republic? And if so, what excites you the most?
I think that I am excited for it. I think that what excites me the most about it is that it is new, it's fresh, it's going to finally kind of. I think that Star Wars has gotten a little Skywalker saga exhausted, where like even Rogue One obviously was about the Death Star plans, but to me that felt like it could have been the movie to take us away from that route possibly, but I'm really interested in the original stories that are going to pop up from this. I think as a Star Wars fan, I am ready for a fresh take on the Star Wars universe that maybe doesn't follow the same tropes. Even though I clearly stated earlier that I get why people didn't like the newer Star Wars movies from Disney because they didn't follow those tropes. But I just think something original with kind of a new cast of characters, or even bringing back some old characters to tell their stories in an original way, is going to be really interesting.
Well, Jenny, I know you're the youngest and basically the newest Star Wars fan here. What's got you excited about the High Republic?
Okay, first of all, thanks for throwing me under the bus. Second, I'm excited. I'm excited for like a whole clean slate. Oh, mother shit. I'm excited for like a whole new clean slate of this, like, and like I'm excited because like some of like Star Wars like main authors like Claudia Gray is getting involved in, like she's pretty good, and I'm excited. And I don't know, I'm like excited what this could bring to the universe to expand it. That's just not Skywalker.
Fair enough. All right, Tom, what's got you excited about the High Republic?
I'm excited for it just because it's kind of a new era of Star Wars again that isn't kind of the Skywalker stuff. Though the idea of the High Republic kind of sounds like Old Republic to me, and being a huge Old Republic fan, I wonder how much of High Republic. They do say it's going to be new stories and new characters, but kind of evidenced by the movies that they've done and even stuff of Mandalorian, where a lot of it does reference older stories or even older other films, and not even just necessarily Star Wars itself, but taking those kind of structures and bringing it into Star Wars. I wonder how much exactly of High Republic is going to feel absolutely new, where when I kind of look at the drawings, granted they're going for the Knights of the Round Table, which I love King Arthur stuff. The Old Republic it just sounds similar to the Old Republic even though it's like, well, it's just 400 years prior to the Phantom Menace. But I mean, I'm excited for it. I do hope it is actual, all new original stuff.
Outside of Yoda, because like Allie,
Yoda and Chewbacca, I think, are technically alive and walking about at this time. So I have
only Yoda. Chewie's only 100.
Oh, I thought he was older than he was. Oh, that's right, they say it Solo. But yeah, I know like Yoda's kicking around. So I mean, we'll guarantee probably see him.
All right, Drew, you're a big star. You're a big Jedi guy. I know you all too well. What's got you most excited about the High Republic?
I am not actually excited for it.
Really?
No. I'm gonna sound like dumb saying this, but when they were building it up, it kind of seemed to me like it was going to be a show or like a movie. And it's fine that it's not, because a lot of the great Star Wars stories are books. Like someone mentioned Claudia Gray, and she has written a lot of great stuff. But I feel like there is a difference between what Star Wars fans are interested in and what the mainstream is interested in. And what I mean by that is I feel like the mainstream is not going to be interested in that. I feel like Star Wars fans are going to be interested in that because they know that, but people who barely know it, or people who just know the movies, or just casual fans, they're not going to be interested in that. So my thing is, like, I feel like Star Wars needs to just completely go different from what has been. So no Jedi, no Skywalker, none of that. And you can do those stories, and Star Wars is like one of the very few franchises where it can survive without its legacy characters, as demonstrated by Rogue One and Mandalorian and other things. So I'll probably read it, but kind of skeptical on it right now.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's a viewpoint that we kind of needed to hear, because I do get what you're saying, that the casual fan may not tune into it like people are hoping so. But I think what they're doing is smart, because right now they have to kind of foster this younger generation, and they announced they're working along with like 10 publishers just to get all these stories across. And like Allie said, they're going to have stories for each different age. You're going to have stories for adults, teens, young or young adults, whatever you want to call them, kids. And the idea is to help get these people more accustomed to these characters and eventually build them into TV shows and series. And maybe that's the way they have to go about building the franchise going forward. Because I remember even Bob Iger talking about, or before he stepped down as CEO, talking about the fact that TV is, for the time being, TV is the future for Star Wars. And I think that should be how things go going forward, because we see it with Mandalorian. They were able to build such a solid foundation that there's been rumblings that maybe eventually down the line we get a Mandalorian movie to cap off this entire series. Or what we see with Cassian, we're getting a character who was in movies and now coming to have this TV show where we're going to find out more about his history. So I think with that in mind, the High Republic, and I know some people are really pissed that it's not the Old Republic, but ideally what they're trying to do is reset expectations for everyone. They want to put everyone on the same playing ground. You're a Star Wars fan, you want to see something that's not Star Wars or the Skywalkers, we have this for you. If you don't like it, okay. But how fans and casual fans react to what we're about to receive is honestly what's going to help develop Star Wars going forward, in my opinion.
Well, and again, going back to the trailer, I paused at the whiteboard that they had showed. They had a list of things that they wanted to target.
Yeah.
One of those things was diversity, because obviously we all know that in the original Star Wars, there is hardly any diversity at all, including in Knights of the Old Republic, and all of the Old Republic stuff. There really isn't too much diversity. So I think this is also another kind of like good opportunity for them to start fresh, because we are in a different day and age where we like to include everybody. So this is this is a really good not only move for them, but it's also a good business tactic to bring more people in, because a lot of people were like, oh, why is there's not first it wasn't there aren't enough females, then all the females are white, then like you know how it is. You guys have heard this everywhere, but so that's why I think they're not doing an Old Republic series or anything like that, because they don't want to change or mess with the those characters and get backlash from the fan base, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that's just what I think. So.
Well, you keep bringing up the board, and let's take a look at it right here. So basically, they have this list of what they wish is in Star Wars, what they love about Star Wars, and fiction. So let's take a look at this board. You see that they don't want a single main character. They want relatable characters, a sweeping epic, more droids. They want it to be mythic, space and lightsaber battles, complicated monsters. It looks like not pro-war, which I know a lot of people, when they first saw this board, weren't exactly happy when that popped up, because they're like, it's called Star Wars. What do you mean not pro-war? I don't think people understand Star Wars is about it's just that there's war going on and they're ultimately trying to end the war. So it's not like Star Wars is pro-war. But like I remember they talked about in this, the whole the great disaster is going to be the catalyst point for this. So I'm really interested to see, especially looking at this, what stories we end up getting from this board.
Yeah, because it looks like they're trying to throw,
I like how it's just like really normal and it says dinosaurs.
I like the one that says actual.
You like the one that says what, Tom?
It says actual ending. That's like written on the left side. I don't know. It's just like
ending.
an actual ending.
Yeah.
Is that a dig at JJ?
I hope so.
Oof.
After seeing that, Drew,
I just want a dinosaur.
Oh God,
we already had that in episode 2.
Oh, he's right.
You're right.
That
Coleman
that
Trevor
shot off by balcony by Jango Fett, right?
Yeah.
But no. Before we go,
you just want a teenage Sebulba.
Oh God, no.
Okay.
No. Before we go, I do actually want us. For those of you who don't know, Drew's probably one of the better known Luke Skywalker cosplayers out there. And he's got, what is it, like 3 or 4 Rebel Legion approved Luke Skywalker? 5. Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit about those? And if anyone has any questions, go ahead and ask them. So, Drew, what's it like being in the Rebel Legion, and what's probably your favorite Luke costume that you have?
Jesus. My favorite one is probably Tatooine Luke. It's very comfortable, and it's not hot like a lot of other costumes are. So Tatooine is probably number 1. I also live in Las Vegas, so I live on like actual Tatooine, basically.
All right. Well, I know what was the most challenging one for you to work with, to get right?
It's a good question. Probably the pilot, because there are a lot of different like accessories you need for it, and like they have to be like very exact. And when you're doing like a Rebel Legion costume, it's typically built to like the film quality standards, more or less.
Yeah, that pilot one's one of my favorites. You want to know why?
Why?
Because I called you making that as soon as you got the black series.
That's right, you did.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun memories were made at Celebration, especially when they announced that. And I showed it to you, like, oh, that looks cool. I'm like, you're gonna buy it, and you're gonna make that.
You're totally right.
But anyone else has some questions for Drew? I know Allie's big into the cosplay scene. Allie,
Oh, what are your other Luke costumes that you have?
So I have 5. I have Tatooine. I have X-wing pilot. It's a little bit different than the snow speeder. I have Endor. I have the throne room from Return of the Jedi, which is just the black, and then I have Jabba's palace, which is a little bit different from that one. But that one looks more like traditionally like a Jedi uniform from the prequels.
Nice.
Yeah.
what's your favorite part about being in the Rebel Legion?
I feel like you can really embrace the nerdy like side of yourself, and you can form these these long lasting friendships with people who have the exact same interests as you. So like when I was younger, I kind of had a lot of issues with I guess that part of myself, and I kind of just shoved it down for many years, and then as time progressed, I started to go out and do the things that I wanted to do. And I don't know, it's just it's one of those things that it's kind of just like magical, I guess, as lame as that sounds. But you create these great friends, and you're working for a great cause, and you get to do all of that while in costume, and it's really just something on another level.
I know Allie's working on trying to get a Cara Dune cosplay done for the Rebel Legion.
Nice.
And I know that I know Nick's got his Kylo that he loves to do, and we're all anxiously waiting to see what costume Tom would ever do. But I know I have my whole Lando thing and my Finn thing.
Yeah, Finn too.
Jenny's got her
I only have Kira and like a
cosplay.
couple of Rays.
Yeah, that's why I said Kira and Reese.
Well, you glitched out, so I.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, but no, I really think that anybody who watches or loves Star Wars, take a look in the Rebel Legion, and Drew is a major part of it. So, if you ever have any questions, what should people do? Should they just reach out to their local?
Yeah. Local garrisons, so the bases are different for each state. Some states have, like multiple states will have like one base. It just really depends on the amount of people there. But they're always at like comic conventions and all that stuff. So if you ever go to one and you see them, just talk to them and tell them you'd like to join, and they'll talk to you about what costume you're interested in and how to join and all that stuff.
And I know Tom's gonna love this comment. Tom can cosplay as Howard Ratner, but with a lightsaber.
How we bling with a lightsaber?
What would that lightsaber do? Would that be a gold lightsaber? Would that be a white lightsaber? Or would that be
a rainbow? It's always changing colors no matter what.
It's a black opal.
It'd be a gold lightsaber hilt, and it would just be changing colors. I think like all the time. It'd just be a mirage of colors at once.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time tonight. Drew, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime, dude. Allie, you two are the two on the West Coast, so thank you for being willing to work with the time difference, because it's about 10 o'clock here, and I know it's just about dinner time.
Mine is mountain time.
Yes. But everyone who watched, thank you for watching. Jennifer, thank you for joining. Nick, as always, you plan not to be on the show, and somehow you end up on it.
Because of me.
I'll be back.
Yeah. And Tom, thank you for joining on your first episode of what I hope can be multiple more, because I do enjoy talking Star Wars with you. But that's it. So signing off, I'm Matt, and this was another Who Are They? SABER Reels.